This is Joe Wayne with the Anti-COINTELPRO Show and InstinctForSurvival.com with a friendly reminder. Don't forget to hit the bell. That's right. If you're wondering why you're never getting those new video notifications from the Anti-COINTELPRO Show that I upload numerous every single solitary day, it's because you forgot to hit the bell. The bell I'm referring to is that little Google bell right beside the subscribe button. So right after you hit the subscribe, don't forget to hit the bell. And when you hit the bell, you will receive the daily new video notifications from the Anti-COINTELPRO Show and InstinctForSurvival.com. This is Joe Wayne. Good day. And enjoy your video.
I heard the Secretary of State go after this coalition as being the most right-wing coalition in Israel's history, and this is the reason why we don't have peace. There is another coalition, and it's a coalition of the Palestinian Authority with Hamas, which is a terror organization that is openly committed to Israel's destruction and whose charter calls for the murder of Jews worldwide.
Breaking tonight, open revolt inside the Democratic Party as we are witnessing some of the most high-profile names on the left bristle at the Obama administration's recent handling of Israel. Secretary Kerry's address from the State Department called gratuitous and wrong by one leading Democrat, remarks that Mr. Kerry later defended as necessary.
Which is a very comprehensive effort that is moving Israeli settlers into the West Bank, increasingly making the possibility of two states very difficult, if not impossible. If you have more and more settlements being built in the area that is supposed to be the future Palestine, it makes it harder and harder to have that future Palestine.
Among the Democrats publicly voicing their displeasure, incoming Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, House Democratic Whip Steny Hoyer, and Eliot Engel, the top Democrat on House Foreign Affairs. Correspondent Rich Edson has more on that part of this story from Washington.
Good evening, Sandra. Secretary of State John Kerry's speech criticizing Israel has drawn a robust response from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, congressional Republicans, and even some Democrats. For more than an hour, the Secretary of State outlined the Obama administration's plan to reach peace in the Middle East. And while he did criticize the Palestinians for glorifying terrorists, he also spent much of his speech criticizing Israel on its settlement building. The top Democrat on the House Foreign Affairs Committee says that approach is misguided.
It's easy for us to sit and point fingers and say the Israelis should do this, the Israelis should do that. By the way, I didn't hear very much from John Kerry about what the Palestinians need to do. Right. But it's easy for us to do it.
The Senate's incoming Minority Leader Chuck Schumer writes in a statement, quote, while Secretary Kerry mentioned Gaza in his speech, he seems to have forgotten the history of the settlements in Gaza, where the Israeli government forced settlers to withdraw from all settlements, and the Palestinians responded by sending rockets into Israel. He claims that speech has emboldened extremists on both sides. Some Democrats are applauding Kerry. The second-ranking Democrat in the House, Steny Hoyer, writes in a statement, quote, Secretary Kerry's remarks outlined long-standing American principles that only a two-state solution is a viable one. I continue to believe that the UN Security Council is the wrong forum for critiquing Israeli policies. And now a State Department official is responding to some of these responses, in particular the one by Senator Chuck Schumer, saying, quote, stating uncomfortable facts doesn't embolden extremists. Dangerous steps on the ground by both sides do that. Sandra?
All right, Rich Edson, thank you. Joining me now, Brooke Goldstein, a human rights attorney, and Larry Korb, a senior fellow with the Center for American Progress and a former Assistant Secretary of Defense. Good of both of you to be here tonight. Hey, Brooke, I want to start with you first. We had Alan Dershowitz on last night. He said the peace process in Israel has been set back years. Is the damage that has been done, is it irreversible?
Look, I think the United Nations in general has been engaged in an incline, a very steady incline of anti-Semitic, racist moves that are designed to damage any future of peace. And I think why we see a nonpartisan disgust to what Kerry is pushing is because what he's pushing really is a Judenrein future Islamist state. He is saying basically that Jewish homes in Judea and Samaria are an obstacle to the creation of a future Palestinian Islamist state, that this state should be Jew-free. That is racist, that is segregation, that is apartheid, that is undemocratic, it is anti-American. Further, he's saying this state should be ruled by the PLO, a terrorist group that recruits its own children as suicide bombers. So while he's waxing poetic about whether Israel can remain a democracy, he's asking Israel to support the creation of an Islamist state in a sea of failed Islamist dictatorships when the Middle East is now in chaos because of all the fake lines that are being drawn.
And the timing of all this, of course, is being questioned. And Larry, we look to that speech, we look to the words coming from the Secretary of State, and then we look to the words of key top Democrats in Washington. And it seems like there is some infighting and some serious disagreement within their party.
Well, there's no doubt about it. The Middle East has been contentious in Republican parties when I worked in the Reagan administration and then the George H.W. Bush and the Democrats. But what's interesting is Ehud Barak, who was the prime minister before Netanyahu, also his minister of defense, he basically said today 2/3 of the people in Israel supported Kerry's speech. And one person you didn't mention in here was Dianne Feinstein, Senator Dianne Feinstein, a strong supporter of Israel, the ranking member on the Senate Intelligence Committee. She applauded Kerry for having a bold speech. And this idea that it was against Israel, no, if you look at it, the first 2/3 of the speech were criticizing the Palestinians when he listed the 5 impediments to peace. Now, the other one got the most attention, but the fact of the matter is he did call out for the things that Brooke was talking about with the Palestinians and say they can't continue to do this kind of stuff, empower extremists, if in fact that's what they want. So they're not going to get it if they keep on doing these things. And the other reason is that this year settlements are up 40%. Okay, and so the fact of the matter is, if you don't say anything, it's going to become more and more difficult to get that.
I want to get Brooke in here because she's shaking her head.
This is a racist presupposition that Jews have no legal right to settle in their ancestral homeland.
No, it's the Geneva Convention. It's the Geneva Convention that says they don't.
Please, I let you talk.
Yes, the Geneva Convention. They have a legal right. They have a legal right. Don't say they don't have a legal right.
If you dispute the borders of Palestine as a Jewish state, which was created by the mandate system, you have to dispute the legitimacy of every single border carved up by the mandate, including Saudi Arabia, including Iraq, including Jordan, which you know was created by the exact same mandate document that guaranteed Palestine from the river to the sea as a Jewish state. Palestine is the term used to identify Judea and Samaria by the Romans and also by the League of Nations. It was meant as a derogatory term for the Jewish people. There was no such thing as an ethnicity, a Muslim ethnicity of Palestine. That was invented in the 1970s by Yasser Arafat. Anything else is a historical revisionism. You have Muslim-majority states that comprise of 99% of the Middle East, and to carve up another Islamist state, a dictatorship run by a terrorist organization in a sea of failed Islamist dictatorships, is not a solution to anything. And if you promote that, you promote furthering of terrorism.
All right, so Larry,
well, wait a second. But then Itzhak Rabin, Ehud Barak, and Olmert are all going against what you said. They all accepted this. And in 1949, the Geneva Convention says you cannot settle a territory which you conquer. That's the basis on which the United Nations is.
Territory was conquered? The Ottoman Empire existed.
This is surely the disagreement.
There was no such thing as a state of Palestine.
That is translating to so much disagreement in Washington. We have to leave it right there. But thanks to both of you for coming on and having the debate tonight. Thank you. Good to see both of you. A troubling headline for law.